though the Suns did lose game 2 on the road, we saw a much better offensive process from them. And of the many things that they did better, at the premise of it all was the usage of their three-player actions and how they went about using the three-player actions, doing so with pace and speed, spacing, and just generally tugging at the strings of the Nuggets defense by spacing out some of their rotations and speeding up the activity within their actions. So I wanted to dive into that because I spoke on it in my preview of this series that the Suns offensively should feel liberated in terms of not having to deal with the physicality that the Clippers brought to the table, as well as their ability to take these actions off the table because of this physical type of switching and the defensive personnel that they put forth, in addition to the tacticianship of Tyronn Lue. So with all that being absent in this series, I felt like them being able to get back to their three-player actions would be an advantage for them and potentially a big advantage for them to create out of with consistency. So I just want to kind of dive into a handful of those reps that we saw in game 2, as I think it'll be important for them to implement these with even more volume moving forward, especially with Chris Paul potentially being out for a few games. So let's go ahead and dive into this film. All right, this first play here is going to be sideline out of bounds, first quarter. And they're going to get into some zoom action or Chicago action. So it's going to be a down screen here from Chris Paul. Then Devin Booker is going to receive a dribble handoff from DeAndre Ayton. And what's customary with it being Devin Booker that's receiving the dribble handoff is that any pick and roll or pick and roll adjacent type plays, including this handoff action, saw Devin Booker seeing Nikola Jokic at the level of the screen. That's going to be important to the spacing element of this play here, because as we see the screen from Chris Paul discarding of KCP as he tries to navigate it and trailing Devin Booker, that's going to create and exacerbate this 3 versus 3 that the Suns are trying to create in the empty corner here. And because of the spacing of it being in the empty corner, that means that Jamal Murray's read in terms of who he's supposed to be guarding in this scenario and how he can go about guarding DeAndre Ayton here being the roller, while Nikola Jokic is at the level, and while KCP is collecting himself after the screen navigation, all of this is just sped up. And again, because of the spacing of it, in addition to if we shift our attention to the second side, this timely exchange and lift from the corner into a pin in or pin down from Josh Okogie that attracts the attention of the second side. All of this sped up, paired timing-wise perfectly, enables for DeAndre Ayton to slip behind Jamal Murray, who is now isolated as the tagger in this scenario. And, of course, he can't get there quick enough. This is just entirely too quick. Devin Booker reads it perfectly, and he's able to hit DeAndre Ayton on this lob. And then on the next play here, we're going to see some more zoom action. This time it's going to be more Nash action. So Nash action is when a dribble handoff is followed by a double screen. So the Suns like to run this early in their offensive sets. And look at the tempo and the flow of it, as well as the spacing. There's 3 players to one side of the court again. You see the pace that Chris Paul has emphasized since game 1 of the Clippers series, that they need to play with better pace getting into their half-court sets. And one of the best ways that they do so is getting into these quick hitters, their tempo offense here, which here is going to be Nash action. So we see the dribble handoff, then we see the double ball screen. And again, customary with Nikola Jokic with Devin Booker in pick and roll or pick and roll adjacent settings and contexts on offense. We see Jokic at the level of the screen. Again, KCP being discarded of in terms of navigating the screen as a common theme here. A very physical screen set from Chris Paul. But it all helps to create spacing. And again, because of the pace and the tempo of it, in addition to the spacing, Jamal Murray is now isolated as a single tagger in this scenario. So he's tasked with being down to tag while Nikola Jokic is at the level of the screen and while KCP is, again, collecting himself. That's all going to be stretched by this timely pass, as Jamal Murray now has to go from tagging the roller to recovering onto Chris Paul. A great job from DeAndre Ayton diving to the basket with emphasis, with a point to it. And that allows for Chris Paul to get the catch. Jamal Murray is now going from tagger to recovering on CP3. And Chris is going to be able to attack a closeout, something that he's overqualified to do. He's going to get to that right elbow spot. Good separation off of this extra dribble. Of course, he could have pulled up here if he wanted to. Good separation on the change of pace into the 1-2. And that's a layup for him. All right, this next rep here again is going to be more Nash action. So we see this time Chris Paul and Devin Booker are switching roles. So last time it was Chris Paul initiating, Devin Booker flying off of the double screen. This time it's going to be Chris Paul coming off of the double screen with Devin Booker initiating. So we get this double screens here, but look at the difference in coverage. So again, we spoke on the first 2 reps. Devin Booker has 2 to the ball essentially with Nikola Jokic at the level of the screen when he has it. Because it's Chris Paul, the coverage changes. So he's going to end up dropping back. As you can see him up the touch initially with his hand out on DeAndre Ayton. He's going to then revert back into a drop as you see him retreat like a safety would in football below the free throw line. And in addition to that, so Chris obviously could have took this shot off here if he wanted to. This is a great screen from Booker as well as DeAndre Ayton. Again, discarding the KCP. But look at the second side here. Timed up simultaneously as Chris receives the handoff to come off of the double screen. We see Damian Lee, like I mentioned in the preview pod, setting his pinning screen here for Kevin Durant as he lifts up from the corner. Now, this shot is going to end up being a miss, but this is extremely good offensive process because of the pace, and you see the shot quality that they get off of it via the pace and via just the actions that they decide to run here. This great process from the Suns. They get a high shot quality look, and Durant wasn't hitting these early on, but that's a great look that you'll live with 10 times out of 10, especially for him. And then here on this last rep with this specific type of action, we're going to see a dribble handoff here from Damian Lee to Devin Booker that's going to be followed by a screen on ball. This is called Miami action. So we saw Chicago on the first play. We saw Nash action the last 2 plays. And then on this final one here in this specific set, we're going to see Miami. So we get the DHO, and then we get the ball screen here from Josh Okogie. Now pay attention and make note of the matchups here. So we see initially it's, as we still frame it, Jamal Murray that's guarding Damian Lee. A key thing in this specific action is that it allows for them to manipulate a switch and get the less favorable for the Nuggets, Jamal Murray, instead of KCP, to be guarding Devin Booker as they get into the primary action that they really want to run, which is a pick and roll to potentially get at Nikola Jokic and get downhill. So they get the initial handoff. The exchange there forces a switch from the Nuggets as they switch up the line. And then we see again, like I mentioned, it's Jokic on Josh Okogie. They put him on Okogie so that he cannot be involved directly in pick and rolls, but of course the Suns are comfortable having Josh Okogie as a screener. So they try to flip the matchups. Nonetheless, the Suns counter it by using Okogie as a screener, and they still get into what they want. They don't get the initial screen because of good navigation here from Jamal Murray, as well as Okogie not necessarily being set and ready to set this screen. Nonetheless, a way to keep your flow in pick and roll is to go into a rescreen. And that's what we're going to see here as Devin Booker threatens the reject, gets the reaction advantage out of Jamal Murray. And then again, with Devin Booker with the ball and pick and roll adjacent type of context on offense, Nikola Jokic is at the level of the screen. Devin Booker knows this, processes it 2 steps ahead of the defense. You get a good screen here from Josh Okogie to get a reaction out of Jamal Murray. And as Jamal Murray tries to navigate over to potentially put 2 to the ball on Devin Booker, not unlike we've seen with Mikal Bridges in seasons past, we see Okogie springboard off of the screen into the short roll. Great timing on the pass from Devin Booker. And he's able to hit Okogie before any of the defense from the weak side or from underneath can rotate. And that's all going to be exacerbated because by nature of the defense being late and jamming the short roller because of the pace of this play high above the three-point line, Okogie isn't able to springboard downhill. And again, the pace. He's able to bait Aaron Gordon as he steps up to try to put the fire out. He's discarded of. And again, because of the pace of the play, KCP isn't even able to rotate to sink in to help Aaron Gordon and help the helper in this scenario. So again, because of the processing, because of the pace, and because of the speed of everything that the Suns are doing on offense, they're able to exacerbate the advantage created with the speed and pace initially, and they burn the defense. As you can see KCP with his hand on his chest here before Aiden even dunks it. All right, and then another way that the Suns were able to manipulate some advantages and generate great shot quality was via their 77 action, something that we've broken down a handful of times this season, and it's playing out in real time in game 2. So we see Devin Booker imploring with the double clap to go set the double screen, so we get a little bit of a ram look not necessarily a true screen set, but a ram into the 77 for Kevin Durant to be the initial screener. And he's going to be the initial screener because of the spacing dynamic that comes with him being there, in addition to DeAndre Ayton being the second screener so that he can get to Devin Booker can get to Nikola Jokic. Again, Jokic is at the level of the screen every time Devin Booker has the ball coming off of any type of screen. And we're going to see Devin Booker on this first rep here early in the third quarter kick it over to Kevin Durant. And then he's going to attack a closeout and he's going to get free throws. But I want to take it back so that we can kind of look at it a little bit more, because Devin Booker is collecting data on this rep here. So, of course, he's got Jokic at the level. Of course, he's got KCP rotating over to chase over the screen and navigating. He's assessing what the defense is doing. How early is Michael Porter Jr. peeled in? And where is Aaron Gordon, who will be the potential X-out man here? Should Devin Booker swing it to the corner, skip it to the corner, to CP3, Aaron Gordon will be the first one there. And as Michael Porter Jr. is tagging the roller, being DeAndre Ayton, he will be responsible for the next pass out of there. And they would essentially switch off the ball here. So the process in the Devin Booker, he's just reading. He ends up hitting Kevin Durant here. And then again, he's going to be able to attack a closeout just because of the spacing and how he lifts up after the screen is set. It kind of stretches out the defense a little bit, does Devin Booker. And then Kevin Durant's able to do a great job of attacking the closeout. So this very next rep here, we're going to see, again, they're back into their 77 action. They flow right into it. You get the first screen from KD. Ayton doesn't even have to set the next screen because Jokic is already peeled in at the level of the screen. We get 2 to the ball. And again, Devin Booker last time was just checking out his receipt, just processing. This time, see the same scenario. Otherwise, it's going to be different a little bit personnel-wise with Jamal Murray being the low man instead of Michael Porter Jr. That's a smaller guy, and he's a little quicker with these rotations, but because he's shorter and he's smaller, it's going to be easier to shoot over him. And by nature of that, in addition to Devin Booker, last time he picked up his dribble and he made the pass here. Watch how many extra dribbles and how much more ground he's going to gain in stretching these rotations as the Nuggets try to flatten him out. Look at how far he's stretching out the rotations here. And he's forcing the defense to be patient and using his patience as an offensive player, as a playmaker, as a weapon. So as he's spacing, look at what Kevin Durant is. He's creeping over the help line, and he's now on the strong side in addition to Koji and Devin Booker. And look at how all of this stretches the defense along with Chris Paul strategically and smartly lifting up from the corner on that second side. And again, this is all to stretch the rotations of the Nuggets and what they'll potentially do after Devin Booker decides on what pass he wants to make. After all of the stretching, Devin Booker elects to stretch them as much as he possibly can with this skip pass across the court to Chris Paul. Again, like we mentioned, Aaron Gordon is going to be the X-Man. He's responsible for the first pass out of this scenario. He's going to rotate over to Chris Paul. And Jamal Murray does not take a straight line in his rotation over to Kevin Durant. Some of that is because of the timing and the patience from Devin Booker. But it's also just a lack of, I guess we could say, focus a little bit on this rep from Jamal Murray. So he goes from tagging the roller, takes the wrong steps initially, and that's all going to lead to Chris Paul being able to make this +1 pass to Kevin Durant. And again, because of the stature of Jamal Murray, in addition to him taking a curved angle on his rotation out to close out to Kevin Durant, rather than it being a straight line, that's all going to be just enough time for the easy money sniper to get a catch and shoot from the dome, and he knocks that down. Great process from the Suns, great patience from Devin Booker. All those reps we've broken down with him playing off of double teams, paying off in real time. And then we're going to see them get into a different variation of their 77. This time it's going to be Kevin Durant that's going to be in the corner. Damian Lee setting the first screen. He's going to ghost it. And then we're going to see DeAndre Ayton set the second screen. This is coming out of elbow. And they do this to keep it in the middle third rather than them working from the outer third towards the middle third. So this rep keeps them in the middle third. Allows for Devin Booker to get a little bit more downhill because of the way that it's aligned and the angles of the staggers. The last couple of staggers were a little bit flat. These are a little bit more vertical, if you will. So we see him come off of this screen. Jokic again is at the level of the screen. We see Devin Booker again doing a great job with his processing speed, being patient. This is the difference, and this is the growth in his game. Sometimes he would terminate his dribble early, or sometimes he would make an errant pass. Now he's extremely patient, and he's matured in his processing speed. And we see it play off here as he again holds 2, Pump fakes a couple of times, gets Jokic in the air, gets Bruce Brown in the air as well as he navigates over. And he just plays with Christian Brown because he knows that Christian Brown has Kevin Durant in the corner. He doesn't want to leave and potentially concede the three-pointer, especially in that left corner, which is on the game plan for the Nuggets, to one of the most lethal shooters in the NBA, especially off the catch. So Devin Booker processes all of that, stretches out the rotations yet again, and is extremely patient in stretching out the defense as they flatten him out. And then he hits DeAndre Ayton with this very timely and astute pass and just manipulates the low man tag and the rotation from the Nuggets for 2 for the Suns at a timely and crucial point in the game, no less. And then on this last rep here, we're going to see them again get back into it, a little bit of elbow action. Damian Lee ghosts it. Bismack Biyombo this time is setting the screen. And then we get Jokic at the level of the screen again. Damian Lee's going to lift up again. It's Jeff Green is going to be the X-Man. Christian Brown is tagging the roller. We get a good timely pass from Devin Booker again, changing up when he's making these passes, changing up his timeliness in his decision-making to play chess with the Nuggets while they play chess with him defensively. Beats them with the rotations on this great pass, this fireball that he skips over to Kevin Durant, again in this left corner. Durant misses this, but you can see the process. It's these type of little nuanced ways that they've gone about operating on offense that I feel like they can sustain and just increase the volume on. And I think those will fare extremely well for them in these games moving forward and getting more clean looks, finding those pressure points of the Nuggets defense, especially with this corner three-point opportunities with the type of defense that they run with the low man peeled in so soon. If they can hit these and knock these down with more consistency, that's going to change a lot of the math and change a lot of the volume of three-point looks that they can generate because this is a pressure point for them to hit consistently. And they could potentially change this series if they can execute within that.